Hi there, this is Eric. I wanted to provide a quick video about these two new blocks that I purchased from Viadana USA. I wasn't able to find really any reviews or much information about the blocks beyond the manufacturer's website and their product catalog. So I wanted to just share my initial thoughts and show everyone the blocks to get a closer look. Now, I'm not sponsored in any way by Viadana, and as far as a review is concerned, this is certainly not comprehensive, and I'm more or less an amateur sailor. From an experience perspective, I can only compare these to Harken blocks that I've owned. So I'm sure everybody out there will have a bit of an opinion. I think it's probably good just to get the information out there, and people can make a decision for themselves if certain features are good, bad, or otherwise. But the blocks that you see here, they're both composite 57 millimeter. The lower, it both has the front mounted pulley and the becket. It's a manually selectable ratcheting center sleeve, and then the upper is a quad 57 millimeter. So most people are familiar with these. If you've looked at the Harken 8-to-1 rigs, Mainsheet rigs that is, they're the ratchematic models that have a load sensing ratchet for the center sleeve. For my purposes, I really did not care to have that feature, as I was looking for just something that was economical and as a recreational cruiser, not racing or pushing the boat really too hard. It wasn't an important feature for me. So first impressions, these look very similar to the Harken blocks that I'm used to. Though the price point is considerably more affordable. The 8-to-1 rig, if you're looking at the lower block, it's the Viadana part number 14.36. It was about $170 compared to the Harken Ratchematic, which is about 100 or 355. Just doing a quick search on the internet. And the quad upper was a little over $100. It's part number 96.73, and $100 versus about 180 for the Harken equivalent. And frankly, I paid more for the 40 millimeter Harken Carbo Air block that I bought for a 6-to-1 rig not long ago. So both pretty inexpensive. The blocks themselves, a couple things stand out to me just from first glance. These blocks use, from a fastener standpoint, they use a little bit different style of fastener. This is really just a stainless steel tube that is formed or flared at the end to act as a rivet. It's got 4 of them on each of the block. I'm used to typically something that's a little bit more of a solid, or appears to be a solid rivet. These Harkens, they appear to be solid. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. It's interesting for the lower, that actually allows the bracket to be affixed with 2 bolts that run the complete width of the block and are then kind of affixed, or these are indexed with 2 plastic studs and the bolts. From first observation, I went through and already repositioned these to match what I prefer on my boat, but these are attached with or using nylock nuts, and just having taken it out and put it back in, it just doesn't look like it fully engages, or beyond maybe one thread engages the nylon on those nuts at all. Same situation on top. it doesn't really look to fully engage the nut, compared to something that you've got just a little bit of extra thread sticking out, so it's going fully and completely through that nylon. Not a big deal. Once again, just a first observation. It's something that I'm going to put a little bit of thread locker on just to make sure that I don't lose those nuts. The bolt itself has a bit of friction just because of the various layers it goes through, so I suspect it wouldn't go anywhere. But that's just one of the first things that I noticed. On the topic of thread locker, the rotating feature or swivel feature on these pulleys is locked out with a small Allen screw. The Allen screw I'm going to leave off just because for my purposes, and I suspect most people using this as a Mainsheet system will want this to swivel, but there's nothing in there from a thread standpoint to keep that small Allen screw from coming out. So if you plan on using it, a little bit of thread locker would probably save you from losing that screw in the future. The pulley itself, what can I say? It's straightforward. It uses a manual selection for the ratchet. The front cam cleat is exactly what you would expect. It's got the same exact sizing as a Harken 150, though as an observation, this does not have the same exact shape as the 150, which I think may be unique to the Harken. They have just a little bit of a horn up here. So I'm interested to see how the cam cleat ends up holding up over time and how well it engages the rope. I suspect it'll be fine. It does have, compared to a Harken, this has got maybe a dozen sales from a usage standpoint on it. The cam cleat has got a bit of slop, so from a tolerance perspective, they're just not producing these quite with the same tolerance as those Harken 150 cleats are. From a general observation, the only other thing that really stood out to me, the rivets that go through the center of this pulley, which are currently underneath this bracket, the flare where they're formed was not quite pressed all the way. Maybe it was an oversight in production, but it's one of those things. I ended up taking a small punch and just seating them completely so this bracket would sit a little bit more flush to the body of the block. The final thing that kind of stood out to me, these both come with a shackle. The hole for the shackle is, under most conditions probably just fine. I did notice, because I was going to swap these out to a snap shackle, that the tolerance on these was just a little tight. Took a small round file and cleaned it out. I probably ended up taking just a tiny fraction of a millimeter off. So just something worthwhile to check if you've got a bunch of pins maybe that are slightly misshapen or maybe larger than others, to double check so you don't run into a problem while you're on the boat if you've got to put them through. Once again, as far as the blocks are concerned, this is just really an initial quick view of the blocks. I haven't had a chance to get them out on the boat yet, but for the price, they got my attention, and it's probably a couple months of use, and I'll be able to comment on how they're holding up compared to what I'm used to with the Harken branded blocks. but you know, at this point, that's just kind of a first impression. I will say that in ordering them, I called up Viadana USA, got right in touch, you know, with the salesman. Come to find out, he's the president. His name is Jeff. Really pleasant guy to spend with, to speak with, and you know, from an ordering standpoint, he was able to answer any of the questions that I had on the blocks. He seemed very knowledgeable on them, and shipping was fast. So that's that, and I'm not going to get into the business of making YouTube videos regularly for this, but hopefully I'll have in a couple of months something to comment on how these blocks have stood up to at least a little bit of use. Thanks for watching, and please let me know if there are any questions.